the Sugar Bowl, Tulane Stadium in New Orleans. And it is time for the Super Bowl. Hi, I'm Jack Buck, Pat Summerall alongside, and believe it or not, there's one thing that hasn't been said about this game to this point.
Manning lobs it, throws a long touchdown, New York!
Hester trying to work it back to the middle, gets past the first wave, and here he goes! It's Hester! Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Roethlisberger has time, throws to the back of the end zone, and it is caught for a touchdown.
Montana, touchdown, John Taylor.
Welcome to Basically a Football Show.
Basically a Football Show, Super Bowl week. Everybody is up in the San Francisco Bay Area, whether it's San Francisco, where the game isn't being played, or 50 miles away in Santa Clara and San Jose, where all the other actual important things are happening. It's Super Bowl 50 week in San Francisco, the Bay Area. Greg, it feels great to be there here on Radio Row. Oh, wait, we're not there.
You know, I almost did the show from out on my back deck today because it was sunny out and it's 75 degrees, and I thought, you know, I could kind of fake it like we're on Radio Row, but yeah.
Right. Well, that's pretty close to how San Francisco is. I mean, usually it's like 50 to 60 and foggy, but it's the same idea.
Let's just put it this way. We are both on a coast.
Yes.
Close enough. So there you go.
I am on the Pacific Coast, so I'm your on-site reporter for Super Bowl 50. How about
and I'm on the Atlantic coast getting the Eastern media
getting
bias.
the Carolina reaction.
So, yeah, exactly, right.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's Super Bowl week. Media Day was last night because they changed up the schedule. They have an opening night for the Super Bowl week. They put it in prime time for the NFL Network and ESPN.
So what was it? Some sort of a red carpet ordeal or what?
No, it was still media. It was, as far as I could tell, there was nothing different. It was just Media Day at night.
Okay.
Like I tried to look for other stuff. I guess they were having concerts and stuff in San Francisco, but Media Day was again 50 miles away, where they were having the actual event that people would have cared about. But we'll get into that sort of stuff.
Well,
in a minute.
Just real quick on that, I think it was last year, maybe the year before. We were talking about the Super Bowl either here or on Bass. And I said, why are they calling it South Florida instead of Miami? And then it was North Texas instead of Dallas. And now I understand why. Because it's not in San Francisco, even though – so, yeah, we'll get to all that. But I just –
It's not in San Francisco. It's not in Miami. It's not in Dallas.
Yeah, but in San Francisco's case, it's not really even close.
No. The other ones are acceptable. But this is ridiculous. And I feel for the people of San Francisco. They're obviously not thrilled.
Well, you feel bad for people in San Francisco. This is a precedent-setting moment here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly, but you know, the NFL does what it wants to do. But there was actual football played over the weekend, Greg. Well, I mean, what they call football, I don't know.
Yes, there was.
The Pro Bowl back in Hawaii. Team Jerry Rice and Team Michael Irvin. Man, when these two teams get together, Greg, you know, throw out the record book.
You got it.
Longtime rivals, of course.
Did you see the pregame interview they did with Michael Irvin?
I didn't see anything of significance with the Pro Bowl, no.
Okay, I was flipping through, and they were interviewing Michael Irvin, and he was talking about how he had been chasing Jerry Rice his whole career.
Right.
And this was his chance to finally catch and pass him.
Right.
And I thought, boy, if there's a bigger pile of BS we're going to hear today, I don't know where it's going to come from.
Well, he did it. Team Irvin knocks off Team Rice 49-27 in the Pro Bowl.
Are we sure? Because I didn't have any idea which team was which.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was going too. How I watched this game, I didn't really watch it. I was out. I was working at the newspaper, and because we work in the sports department, we have to watch the sports. So there's a bunch of TVs, and there was just a TV on top of the cabinets, and I had it on. I couldn't really see the score bug. I just saw bright orange and bright blue. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll figure out which team's which based on that. Except the teams were wearing dark gray with gold accents and white with gold accents. And, of course, everybody wearing their regular helmet. So there was no way. I literally had no idea who was winning. I had no idea who was on what team. And I had no idea, I would look up and say, oh, the great team's on offense. And then they would score, and I'd be like, no idea. People joke that with all these uniforms and stuff, oh, I have no idea who's on TV. But generally it's like, you can still tell, okay, that's Oregon, that's
right,
Arizona State, that's whoever. I literally had no idea which side was which. And
if you put go ahead.
We've seen this be kind of a problem with whether it's the NHL or the NFL now with the Pro Bowl fantasy draft type format, where it doesn't matter who's on what team. It's just it looked like a bunch of gray blobs playing a bunch of white blobs in football. That was all I could tell.
To this moment, if you put a gun to my head, I would not be able to tell you which team was in which color. I still don't know. I guess Team Irvin won, but I don't know which color they were.
I think Team Irvin was gray.
Okay. I'll have to take your word for it.
I literally have no idea. I mean, I saw them taking pictures. I'm trying to remember. Russell Wilson was the MVP of the Pro Bowl.
I think he was in gray.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. 8 of 12 for 164 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, and if you didn't see his interview after the game, then you missed another piece of poetry.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. I didn't think it was possible for me to dislike him more than I already do.
Jesus.
But he pulled it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the difference in this game, if you care, Team Irvin, 7 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Team Rice, 3 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Derek Carr had 2 interceptions. Tyrod Taylor was a Pro Bowler and threw 3 interceptions.
Right. You know, I was this close to my Brian Hoyer prediction coming true.
These were the quarterbacks that were quote-unquote Pro Bowlers this season. But, you know, whether they were picked or not, these are the ones that played in this year's game.
These are the guys who said yes. Derek
Carr, Pro Bowler? Tyrod Taylor?
No.
Eli Manning?
You know, maybe like the old, we're going to put you in because you've been around a while type thing, so I can go with that one.
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater?
Again.
Jameis Winston?
No.
Those were your quarterbacks.
No.
Your running backs, Doug Martin?
Nah.
Chris Ivory?
No.
Cedric Pierman?
Who?
Cedric Pierman.
Who does he play for?
I am opening it up right now because I have no idea. The Bengals.
He wasn't even their main back, was he? I thought it was, what's his name?
His stats on here for the 2014 regular season. They had 2 other backs. There was, he's not a Pro Bowler. That's a fact at this point. I mean, we don't even know who he played for. Huh. This has to be wrong. Like, ESPN has to have made that. That's not right. Anyway, Adrian Peterson. He led the league in rushing. He's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
Latavius Murray?
No.
Devontae Freeman?
He had a pretty good year. He had a pretty good run for a while there with the Falcons. He kind of tailed off at the end of the year, but I'd say based on his first 7 or 8 games, you could make a good argument for him, yeah.
Todd Gurley.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's fine. Darren Sproles.
I wasn't even sure he was still playing.
And just to show you how things went, defensive players Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman got rushing attempts for Team Irvin. Let's see, receivers Travis Kelce. Yeah,
I'd say he's a Pro Bowler for sure.
Jarvis Landry.
I saw him in the game and I thought, okay, he's a guy that just said yes. He was available.
Amari Cooper.
Yeah, you can make an argument, I guess.
T.Y. Hilton. Not this year.
Not this year.
Not this year.
But wasn't there, I think it was a record number of players turned down their Pro Bowl invitation this year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you're going to have an all-star game where you can't get all-stars to play in it, why have it?
Well, it's the NFL Pro Bowl's always been in a strange position, right? Because it's the end of the year, and you know it makes it a little harder now that they have it the week of the Super Bowl. So team players that played in or that are playing in the Super Bowl don't make it. So look, the Panthers had a league high in terms of Pro Bowl selections,
right?
But none of those guys can play in the game because they got a more important game to play the next weekend. So you take all those guys off the table. You take whatever Broncos were in the game off the table. Tom Brady, you would think that he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he's one of the better quarterbacks in the entire league, of course. And even if he didn't have a good year, he'd still make it because he's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
But he played a very tough game the week prior where he got beat the hell up, so he's not going to want to go play in an all-star game. And even when it was, after the season, for some of these guys that didn't play in the playoffs, that's 5 weeks in between playing football.
As the league gets bigger and as the money gets better, there is less and less incentive to play in this game. Back in the 80s and the 70s and stuff, sure, there was an extra – I forget. There was a winner's share and a loser's share, and it was
and it's a trip to Hawaii
and a free trip to Hawaii. So sure, it was worth going. But at this point, again, when you mention a Pro Bowler and we go, who did he play for, and we do a football show, that shows you how far down the well you've gone with this thing. And I think that either just go, okay, look, we can't get people to show up for it anymore. And end it.
Do we need the Pro Bowl anymore?
I don't think we do. But if you're not going to end it, you talked about Richard Sherman getting some rushing attempts. And Michael Bennett, either end it or just get volunteers to play in it and do crazy, weird stuff like that would just be cool to watch.
Like Charles Woodson, one of the fun things was Charles Woodson. It's his final time in the NFL in the Pro Bowl. They gave him some snaps on offense because he played at Michigan, so it would be a fun thing. Like, here, we'll go throw you some passes. I don't think he caught anything. It doesn't look like it. But all-star games in general have kind of lost their value.
Yeah.
But in the Pro Bowl, you can't play football if you're not going to play football.
No, and I mean, if you saw any of it too, I mean, there was a couple times it was basically two-hand touch.
Yeah.
And the tackling
you touch somebody to fall down, or you don't attempt to tackle at all.
Right, and I understand that because you don't want to get hurt in a Pro Bowl. I mean, there was a kid that played for the Patriots, a very promising running back.
Yeah.
I think his name was Robert Edwards, I want to say.
Right.
And it didn't happen in the Pro Bowl, but he played beach football or whatever and blew out his knee and never played again. So you always want to be careful, but...
Right. They've taken away stuff like that where they're not going to, tear an ACL stepping in a hole of sand.
But the point being is that you're not going to get to see, the defensive players play like they normally would in a regular game.
No, and who the hell cares?
Right. It's just
in football, you want to see the best team play the best team, not an all-star game.
No, and it's just too hard to have an all-star game in football. If there's one sport that just makes it, you can't have anything that even resembles the real game. It's football because you just can't do it. It's just too risky. There's too much money involved. Careers are at stake. No one's going to play that hard. I'm surprised they can still get people to go to it. Really.
And really, just the way the season is structured, there's no place to put it.
No.
Like, unless they made, like, an extra bye week in the middle of the season for everybody, they took that week off to play the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, but still you're going to have players that aren't going to get that week off,
Well, they wouldn't get that week off, or there would be players that say, oh, there's a week off in the middle of the season? Yeah, I'm not going to go. Mm-hmm. They're going to take that extra week to heal.
Well, I mean, if you look at football, and football is the only sport where we have this, where you have a week off put into the middle of your season just because it's just that rough of a sport. It's really outlived its usefulness. I imagine I actually saw that it got bad ratings, which surprised me because usually, despite all of our complaining about it, it always does really well in the ratings, but not this time. It did okay, but it dropped significantly. But then there was nobody there you wanted to watch.
Right. Well, it's that, and I think I like the fantasy drafting concept. And it works for a little while, but after a certain point of time, it's like there's nobody in the game to root for.
No.
And it's complete fantasy football. And obviously they recognize fantasy football as a big thing that keeps the league at the top of the charts in popularity, whether it's legal fantasy or daily fantasy or whatever. So if you're a fan, you watch this as you would like your own fantasy team. You're rooting for a couple players, whether they're from your own team. But say if I was now that I'm a Rams fan, Todd Gurley played for one team and Aaron Donald played for another team, I think. And you're going to have teammates tackling teammates, and it's weird. It's weird.
Well, here's the thing.
You're not rooting for a conference or division or your own team. It's just, if you want to watch a football game, kinda, then you can tune in.
It's become more like the Senior Bowl in college or one of those things.
But the Senior Bowl has a purpose.
I understand that, but I mean from a rooting standpoint, that's what it's become.
Yeah.
There's no reason to. But back in the 80s and in the 90s, when it was still, even in the 2000s when it was AFC NFC, there were still interesting like storylines. Like you could say, okay, Joe Montana had just played, I don't know who, like say the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, and now he's going to throw to the guys that he was playing against, that type of thing. There's not even that anymore. There's like nothing to it. Or like, the Browns have to team up with the Broncos after losing 2 heartbreaking AFC championships to them. There's not even that. Right. There's not even the chance to see, Steve Young throw it to Michael Irvin or something like those. There's not even any of that now. It's just a bunch of guys playing football, and it's just not very interesting.
If say the Pro Bowl were to stick around, I mean, because I think everybody's quick solution is to say we don't need it anymore, get rid of it, and especially because being named a Pro Bowler doesn't mean a damn thing anymore. Like, you could put that on your resume. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, but okay. Who cares? Mm-hmm. More people care about now whether you're named to the All-Pro team or not.
Right, because there's some legitimacy to that because people don't turn it down.
Yeah, and that's based in supposedly that's what's in players' contracts. The teams are no longer putting in selected as a Pro Bowler as like a bonus in people's contracts anymore.
Well, no, because you'd have that guy that we'd never heard of getting some huge bonus just because 5 people in front of him didn't show up.
Right, so they make it on the All-Pro list. And supposedly that's what agents have said, too. They realize that it doesn't mean a damn thing either. But if we're going to keep the Pro Bowl in some form, in some fashion, what would you want to do to fix it?
Like I said, make it like they did yesterday where you've got Richard Sherman maybe playing quarterback, put a lineman in as a running back, do some goofy stuff like that would make it fun. That's the only thing I can think of.
I think it's funny because the Pro Bowl, and it felt kind of stale. You contrast that on the very same day, and we'll talk about this on the sports show, the NHL All-Star Game, which had some fun injected to it, whether from outside, even if there wasn't the outside stuff with John Scott and all that. It was a different thing. It was fun. Like there was some rooting interest for your division or whatever, and it was it made it kind of fun and interesting and did something else. With football, I mean, I guess they could do 7-on-7, but then you don't have any linemen and.
That's the thing.
Make a lineman game.
No, what they need to do if you're going to do 7-on-7,
play quarterback.
Right, let the linemen play other positions. That I would watch that. That would be fun. It would be kind of a joke, but at least it would be interesting.
Right. Because I think one of the things that hurts the Pro Bowl, in a sense, is that they have to play by the rules of football.
Yeah.
Get rid of some of the rules. Like not the player safety rules, because nobody's going to hit each other, but like. It doesn't matter what number guys are going to wear. Let them play receiver.
Let everybody be eligible on a play, no matter what position they're playing.
Right. Like I'm trying to think of other ways to play football, and it's hard because it's pretty straight up. How you play football, you can't really mess around with it. The only other variations are 8-man and 7-on-7 type football.
Yeah. There's really, I mean, if you want to get right down to the crux of it, there's really no way to fix it. It's far outlived its usefulness, and they've tried to gimmick it up, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Either go back to the AFC NFC thing and just let it stay the way it was, or just dump it, because this fantasy football thing, you're right. There is literally no reason to root for either one of those teams, and I'm not a big enough football fan to just watch a poorly played football game just for the sake of watching a poorly played football game.
Super Bowl 50, Denver Broncos, Carolina Panthers. The Big Blue Jean, Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, California.
Are we really going with that, the Big Blue Jean?
That's what Chris Berman called it. I'm not calling it that.
Speaking of, now that we're here.
Or no, he doesn't call it the Big Blue Jean. What does he call it? The Big
Bell Bottom.
Big Bell Bottom.
Big Bell Bottom.
Big Blue Jean sounds better. That's right. I remember calling it that. Anyway.
Let's go with our version. But yeah, so now that we're here at the Super Bowl and we've got the Broncos and the Panthers, I went back and looked over our preseason predictions. Mm-hmm. Do you want to see how we did?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's tell people how bad we are.
Actually, we didn't do half bad.
Yeah.
We'll start with just like we did on the preview show with the AFC East. Do you remember who you picked to win it?
Patriots,
right. Now, this is what I thought was pretty nice. You said, and your exact words were, the Patriots will win 12 games and get a bye. And guess what?
They won 12 games, got a bye?
Yeah. Here's where we kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Well,
I liked the Dolphins, you liked the Bills, and we both said the Jets had zero chance of doing anything this season.
Well, I think everybody was on that train. I don't think anybody expected the Jets to play defense as well as they did, but it's still a shame that they didn't make the playoffs. They had a good year.
Yeah, and they, again, though, they've got no one but themselves to blame. They could have beaten Buffalo and been done with it.
Right.
In the AFC North, we both liked the Steelers to win the division, the Ravens to come in second and get a wild card, and the Bengals we thought would be about an 8-8 team.
Yeah, we figured the Bengals would fall off a little bit, and Andy Dalton was still pretty good for the majority of the year. He just got injured there at the end, and A.J. McCarron couldn't lead him over the finish line.
And then they stuck their heads up their asses and lost that game against Pittsburgh, and there we are.
And the Steelers, they could have been the division winner, too, if it weren't for injuries.
Right.
They had the chance to.
Didn't they go 11-5?
The Steelers?
Yeah. I think they did. I think we predicted them to go 11-5, and they did.
I think they went 10.
Oh, was it 10-6?
Yeah, I believe so. And then the Ravens.
Well,
they picked it up a little bit towards the end of the season, but man, they were
we really missed
bad
on the Ravens. We really missed on the Ravens.
Yeah. Well, it also didn't help that Terrell Suggs got out for the season in the first game of the year, so the defense was bad. They lost Steve Smith for the year too, so they had nobody to throw to.
And if you look back at their games too, I mean, they got beat a lot, but they were in pretty much all their games. They didn't get blown out very many times.
Yeah.
The AFC South, we both picked the Colts, which I think going into the season, I don't know that anybody that wouldn't have picked the Colts.
No, that's not a bad pick. I mean, Andrew Luck gets injured, and they have to rely on Matt Hasselbeck all year until he finally can't give them anymore, and they have to turn to Josh goddamn Freeman in the last game of the season.
And didn't Charlie Whitehurst get some playing time in there?
Charlie Whitehurst played in there. Some other dude played in the final week. The AFC South was a clusterfuck this year.
It really was,
to put it in simple terms.
But
there's no other way to put it. But it was just a mess of a division.
But here's the thing, you see, and that's the thing, though. We made a bad pick with the Colts, but again, we weren't going against the grain with that.
No.
You said that you liked the Houston Texans to possibly go 9-7 and maybe contend for a wild card. Well, guess what? They went 9-7 and won the division. Still not a bad call on your part, though.
No. I mean, they found some offense late in the year. The defense, I thought the defense would have played better from start to finish, but they came on strong in the end. And yeah, I think if the defense had been better all year, then maybe they are even better.
Oh yeah, you got to think as poorly as the defense played to start the season, that probably cost them at least 2 wins, at least.
And you got to think that Brian Hoyer cost them a win here and there.
Right.
Just the back and forth of QB for him really was not great.
And in the AFC West, we had the Broncos, which again, I don't think we were going against the grain on that. We had the Chiefs having a pretty good year. We said between 9 and 7, if everything broke the right way, they could have like a 10 or 11 win season. That's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yep.
This is where I really went off the rails. I said I like the Chargers in the wild card chase, and I like them better than Kansas City.
Right.
Didn't turn out quite like that.
No, but again, not to the fault of. I mean, Phillip Rivers had one of his best seasons of his career.
Right.
The rest of the team turned out to be garbage.
But yeah,
and then of course all the drama surrounding them with this LA stuff is it probably didn't help.
And in the AFC, we both had the Ravens as a wild card. I had the Chargers as my other wild card, and you had the Bills. So the Bills were right in it until towards the very end.
Yeah.
The Chargers were never in it, but. And in our AFC Super Bowl picks, we both went with the Colts, and we know how that turned out.
Yep.
In the NFC East, and this is another one, too, we both had the Cowboys. And, again, we weren't going against the grain. It was just that was the pick, and it probably would have turned out that way had the Cowboys not just gotten destroyed by injuries.
Yeah. Yep.
You like the Eagles. You said this is what you said about the Eagles, and I thought this was interesting because you were right on the money. You said they had the highest variance of any team in the league. You said that if everything went wrong, they'd go 6-10. And if everything went right, they might go 13-3. And everything went wrong, and I think they finished 6-10. So that was a pretty good pick on your part.
Yeah, it's almost like we watch football.
Almost. And then this is another one. We said Washington. Our exact words were, "Oh my goodness, no chance whatsoever." Well,
I think again that was something else that everybody was on that train. That because of all the stuff going on in the offseason with them, personnel wise in the front office with Dan Snyder, with the team name, just there seemed to be no possible way for this team to survive through all the garbage they went through. And to Kirk Cousins' credit, they did it.
Yeah.
So they won the division, and that's probably one of the more surprising, probably the most surprising when it comes down to who made the playoffs at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, no one picked them to do anything this year. In the NFC North, we both had the Packers, and I liked Minnesota as a wild card. As we've been talking all season, they were my irrational confidence team, and for the first time in 3 years of basically a football show, my irrational confidence finally paid off.
It did.
You liked the Minnesota Vikings. You said that they could make the playoffs, but you were thinking they were probably still a year away. And then we said the Bears would go between 6-10 and 7-9, and that's pretty much exactly what they did. So didn't do too badly there. What I guess the point I'm making is so far we haven't made a Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick like we made last year.
No, they're all right. I mean, there's the big misses aren't anybody's fault. Like the biggest misses, of course, because we picked. I think both of us picked Cowboys, Colts in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did.
And at the beginning of the year, that was a lot of people's pick, and a lot of people were on both those teams. They just both got decimated by injuries, and it happens in football, but it's not anything anybody could predict.
Right.
Like, you're not going to go into the season saying, like, Tony Romo's going to break his collarbone again. And, nobody ever makes that pick. You make the pick based on what they have and what they have on paper. And I think all of our picks are fine when it comes to a beginning of the season standpoint. Just stuff breaks certain ways sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, really, and this next division is where I think I made the worst pick of the entire season, but the NFC South, This is funny. You had Carolina, and then right at the very end, you said, no, I'm going to change to the Saints. So you almost got that one. I had the Falcons. I said the Falcons are going to be much improved because of the coaching change, et cetera, et cetera.
Started off 5-0.
And they were a little bit better for a little while, and then they went right back to being the same old Falcons that we all know and love. But this is probably the dumbest statement I made in the history of this show. I said Cam Newton is a pretty fun quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback, and I don't see him taking them to a Super Bowl. Well, guess what?
that guy is in the Super Bowl and the probable league MVP.
Yeah, so I kind of missed on that one. And and then
he still is a fun quarterback.
Yeah, he definitely is. But I just said that I thought he was a year or two away yet, is I think what I said. We both had the Cowboys in the Oh, wait a minute, I got the NFC West here. We both had the Seahawks with the Cardinals as a wild card. We just got it backwards.
Flip-flop, yeah.
We predicted that the Rams would become the Los Angeles Rams, although that's not like we were great soothsayers or anything with that one. And we both predicted the 49ers would fall off a cliff, and that's pretty much what they did. So we didn't do too bad, really. I mean, I know that our basically a sports show co-host, Mike, likes to give us a lot of trouble about our picks, but really, we were pretty much on the money.
Because we had Tampa Bay last year. That's the only thing he's been hanging his hat on.
Right.
But again, I still maintain they were in contention late in the season.
And you know what? And they were legitimately in contention at a point there. Now, granted, it would have been to like win the division with 6 wins, but still they were there. But yeah, so we did okay, I thought, all in all.
But those are the predictions. We got some of them okay. And now we're here for Super Bowl 50, Broncos-Panthers. This Sunday, February 7th, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, CBS and ESPN Deportes.
And the pregame show starts in an hour, I believe.
Yeah, well, NFL Network has been praising. We have 88 hours of live coverage this week.
I don't know what they would cover at this point.
Everything's going to be covered inside and out. We're going to do our best to do it here. I actually did a lot of research.
All right, cool.
Here. So, Carolina opened as a 3.5-point favorite last Sunday after the games. Quickly rose to 4 points. They're currently a 4-point favorite going into the week. The over-under for the game is set at 45.5 points. Mostly based on Carolina scoring, over 30 points the last couple weeks, and Denver kind of middling around. Both teams would have to get 23 points at least each to cross the over. What do you think of an over-under of 45?
I tell you, I think I'd have to bet the over on that.
I do too. Supposedly, based on like the betting trends, the favorites in Super Bowls and the over in Super Bowls are usually pretty good bets. You're not going to make a whole lot of money on either of those, but that's where the betting trends lie. Are you a little surprised that the line was as low as it was at 4 points? Because I just think with the way Carolina came out of the in the NFC Championship and Denver, I don't think so. I also just think Vegas is never going to make a line for a Super Bowl that lopsided.
Not after the Patriots-Giants in 2007. Probably not.
No, I think, especially in this game, as we're going to talk about, I think, we both say the over is might be easy to get to, but this is going to be a Super Bowl dominated by the defenses. I think Denver's defense is easily their best unit and one of the top units in the league all year. Carolina's defense, same thing. It tops in interceptions and turnovers, things like that. So I think this is going to be a very defensive Super Bowl. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually goes under, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a tight game all the way through just based on how the two teams play. Now, the Panthers obviously can be explosive, but I think defense might end up ruling the day here.
I think it depends on how the game starts for Carolina. If they get out of the gates quick like they did in the playoffs, it could get out of hand pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. If Denver can if Denver can keep them within reach for a quarter and a half, I think that changes Carolina's confidence a little bit, and then we could get ourselves a ball game. I keep going back and forth on this one. Part of me says, okay, I don't want to be one of those guys that goes, man, the Panthers are just really great, and they're like, the Broncos are no match for them. And the other part of me is like, okay, maybe they're not as good as they look. And I don't know where to fall on it because sometimes they're going, this is just looking at the eye test. You would think the Panthers are just going to roll over these guys. But then I look at that Denver defense and I think, well, look what they did to Tom Brady and the Patriots, Mm-hmm. And say what you want about Cam Newton, and he's a great player and all that, but he's not Tom Brady. Now, he's got more mobility and all that, but this could be – I think it could go either way, and I'll have to think about it some more before I decide. But right now, I don't know which way to go on it.
Well, let's go through some facts here. Denver's 14-4. They're going to their tied for a record 8th Super Bowl, 2-5 in Super Bowls previous. Carolina's 17-1 this season. Their second Super Bowl. They're 0-1 in Super Bowls. This is the third consecutive Super Bowl with number one seeds facing off against each other.
So much
only
for
happened
parity.
3 times previously since 1990 before this stretch of 3 years. This is the second Super Bowl in the San Francisco Bay Area. Greg, do you remember what the other Super Bowl in the Bay Area was?
I sure do. It was Miami versus San Francisco in 84, I want to say.
1985, Super Bowl 19. Where was it played?
It was played at Stanford Stadium.
Stanford Stadium, yep. The Niners beat the Dolphins 38-16 that day. Do you know who's hosted the Super Bowl the most times?
I got to say it's New Orleans, right?
New Orleans and?
Miami?
South Florida tied with 10 each. This is the 12th Super Bowl in California, 7 in Los Angeles, 3 in San Diego. Both teams, you could call this the John Fox Super Bowl. The last time both these teams made the Super Bowl, John Fox was their head coach of the Broncos 2 years ago against the Seahawks, and the Panthers the one time against the Patriots.
So basically, if you want your team to go to the Super Bowl, you hire John Fox for a few years and then fire him.
Pretty much.
Okay. Something to keep in mind, Cleveland.
Now, I said this is probably going to be – I think it might be a defensive Super Bowl, but here's some stats when it comes to defense in Super Bowl history. No team has ever been shut out in Super Bowl history. Only 5 times an offense has not scored a touchdown in a Super Bowl. And in 4 of those 5 times, special teams scored a touchdown in those games. No team has ever won without scoring a touchdown. And the Miami Dolphins have the lowest output in Super Bowl 6 with 3 points.
3 points, yep.
The Panthers are the 9th team with 1 or fewer losses to make the Super Bowl.
Really?
Can you name the other ones, Greg?
Well, there was, I think, no, not San, did San Francisco do it? I know that Chicago
the Niners did it once.
Chicago
Bears did it. Yep, 84 and 85 back-to-back for those 2 teams.
Washington, I want to say in 72 only had 1 loss.
Miami in 72 had no losses.
Okay, and how many did Washington have? Were they not on there?
They beat Washington that year.
Okay, maybe Washington had 2. With only 1 loss, huh?
You're missing – well, we'll just go through it. Super Bowl 2, the Oakland Raiders were 13-1.
Okay.
Super Bowl 3, the Baltimore Colts were 13-1 before losing to the Jets and Joe Namath.
Okay, these are a little before my time. Okay.
Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 7 were 14-0, obviously. The Raiders in 76, Super Bowl 11.
They were 13-1, weren't they?
13-1, and they beat the Vikings.
Right.
Now, this is a technicality, but 1982.
The strike year.
The strike shortened season, the Redskins were 8-1, where they beat Miami. You mentioned the Niners and Bears back-to-back, 84 and 85. Both teams were 15-1. And then the other team, the New England Patriots, of course, in 2007, 16-0 in the regular season before losing to the Gigantes.
Yeah, I was thinking of winning teams. Yeah, I forgot about that Patriots team. Yep. See, that's what you go undefeated the whole regular season. If you don't punch that ticket, no one remembers.
Carolina, Carolina is the 7th team to win 15 regular season games. Only the 7th team to win 15 regular season games. Only the 84 and 85 Niners and Bears won while winning 15 games in the regular season. And if Carolina wins, they would be the 4th team to reach 18 wins, tying those very same Niners and Bears and the Patriots that lost to the Giants. Ron Rivera has an interesting history with all these teams in the Super Bowl. Ron Rivera, as you know, the coach for the Panthers.
Right.
He won the Super Bowl in 1985 with the Bears as a linebacker. He was also the defensive coordinator for the Bears in 2006 when the Bears lost to Peyton Manning, quarterback of the Denver Broncos. And then a fun little fact, prize money. Do you know how much each team gets for being in the Super Bowl or winning the Super Bowl?
Oh, it's got to be, I want to say in the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 range, somewhere in there, maybe more?
The winning players get $102,000 each.
Wow.
The loser gets $51,000.
Wow. That's not bad just to show up.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
But those are kind of the outlying baseline factors of the Super Bowl. But I think from there we got to get into kind of a position. I don't know if it's position by position, but I think the easiest way to break this down, of course, is the marquee matchup is always quarterback versus quarterback. So we'll have Peyton Manning versus Cam Newton. Then we can get into Denver's offense versus Carolina's defense and Carolina's offense versus Denver's defense.
Yeah.
First up, the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, of course, very important when it comes to any football team, but especially so in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl MVP has been a quarterback 27 times in the 49 Super Bowls.
Seems like it would be more than that.
Running backs have been the MVP 7 times, wide receiver 6, defensive player has been named 9 times, and of course, 1 time it was a kick returner, Desmond Howard. This is the first Super Bowl with number 1 overall pick quarterbacks playing against each other.
Okay.
Can you name the other number 1 overall pick quarterbacks to play in a Super Bowl?
Jim Plunkett.
Yep.
Wow. Number 1 overall, Jim Plunkett. Okay, there's Jim Plunkett.
One has to deal with this team.
Are we talking these two?
Yeah, well, one of them has 2 of them have a connection to Denver.
Oh, John Elway.
Yep. And who's the quarterback for the Broncos right now?
Peyton Manning.
Who's his brother?
Eli Manning. Duh. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Then we're missing. Let's see.
Let me think here for a second. Now, let me go back over the years here. Number 1 overall picks. Yeah, no. Dan Marino was a late round pick. No. Montana was a 3rd rounder.
Think Cowboys.
Troy Aikman.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, Terry Bradshaw.
And Patriots.
Quarterback. Drew Bledsoe.
Yep.
Okay.
So Eli Manning, Drew Bledsoe, Troy Aikman, John Elway, Jim Plunkett, Terry Bradshaw, and now Cam Newton and Peyton Manning. This is the 3rd matchup of SEC quarterbacks in the Super Bowl.
Okay,
Peyton
let's
obviously playing at Tennessee, and Cam Newton at Auburn. Can you name the other 2 matchups?
Well, let's see. Okay, Kenny Stabler played at Alabama, but that was Minnesota. Was Fran Tarkenton from the SEC?
Yep.
Okay, there's one.
So Tarkenton, Stabler, and then the other one not too long ago.
I don't know the other one. Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning.
And Rex Grossman.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go.
It took me a little while to get the cobwebs worked out there. Now we're cooking. Okay.
This is also the first Super Bowl with the number 1 and number 2 picks from the same draft playing against each other. Cam Newton for the Panthers and Von Miller for the Broncos.
Wow, I don't remember Von Miller going that high in the draft, but I guess
Neither
he did.
did
Huh?
I.
Yeah.
The largest age gap between quarterbacks, of course, that's been covered and will be covered. 13 years and 48 days. Do you know what the previous record was?
No.
Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson.
Okay.
A couple years ago. Peyton Manning is the first quarterback to play in multiple Super Bowls with 2 teams. No quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl for 2 teams. Kurt Warner came the closest, of course.
Right.
The Cardinals were leading with 35 seconds left.
Had a quarterback that's made it to the Super Bowl with 2 teams besides Manning?
No, Peyton Manning is the first quarterback to play in multiple Super Bowls with 2 teams.
Okay, yeah. Okay, right. Okay.
Some quarterbacks have played in 2 Super Bowls, but Peyton's the only one to do it multiple times.
Okay.
So, like Kurt Warner played for the Rams.
I'm trying to think of other people besides him. I can't come up with any off the top of my head.
Would have been Brett Favre, but he lost.
Right.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, no.
Bledsoe played for New England and Buffalo, right? Yeah, so that's not him. I can't come up with any either.
No.
Okay.
This is only the second time Peyton has played Cam in any football game. The last time, 2012, Denver's first Super Bowl season. Denver beat the Panthers 36-14, and Cam Newton was sacked 7 times.
Boy, it'd be interesting if that happened again this Sunday, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, you saw how that Denver defense hounded Tom Brady.
I know. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Cam Newton, but Brady is faster at reading a defense. He's faster at a lot, when it comes to the decision-making stuff, just because of his experience. And they were all over him.
Yep.
So it's going to be, it could be a really interesting Super Bowl or it could be a disaster. And I don't think it's going to be much in between.
Peyton Manning, 17 interceptions in the regular season, was the second highest in the league, despite missing 6 games. But he hasn't thrown an interception in the playoffs just yet. But Peyton has never not thrown an interception when he's played in the playoffs either.
Yeah, he threw an interception, his first pass in the Super Bowl they won, right? Against the Bears.
And then the end of the the Saints game, his pick 6 sealed the game when the Colts were driving to tie the game, they would have tied the game. Reggie Wayne, you ran the wrong route, man. You ran the wrong route.
Poor Reggie Wayne.
Cam Newton is the 3rd Heisman Trophy winning quarterback to start a Super Bowl.
The other 2 being Jim Plunkett and, let me think. Okay, I don't know the other one.
Dallas Cowboys.
Roger Staubach. Okay.
Cam Newton is the 4th player to win the Heisman, be the number 1 overall pick, and then play in the Super Bowl. One of the other ones being Jim Plunkett, because he's been in all these categories already.
Right.
And the other 2 I've never heard of in my entire life before I looked this up.
Okay, who are they?
George Rogers.
Oh, he was with the Saints.
And Billy Cannon.
Oh, Billy Cannon goes back to like the AFL days. Who did he play for?
I have no idea.
Because I think he was drafted. I want to say he was drafted by the Chargers or the Oilers or somebody like that.
If Cam Newton were to win on Sunday, he'd only be the 3rd quarterback to win an NCAA championship and a Super Bowl as the starting quarterback. You know the other 2?
Joe Namath is one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other one would be...
Is also a Joe.
Montana?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because he did it with Notre Dame. Right, okay. I love this stuff. This is great.
And then in the regular season, Cam Newton has ran or thrown for 50 of the Panthers' 63 offensive touchdowns.
Wow.
So he is the Carolina offense.
Pretty much.
So when it comes down to the 2 quarterbacks, a big dichotomy between the 2 of them. Peyton Manning, obviously, the longtime veteran, much more cerebral at this point in this stage in terms of his physical abilities and his ability to get things done on the field. Cam Newton, the young, exuberant player with all the athletic tools to play. As somebody asked him on Media Day, probably the only interesting quote that I saw on Media Day, everyone has always called him the Cam Newton or the LeBron James of football. Like he's LeBron James playing football in terms of his physical size.
Right.
So Cam asked, why can't LeBron be the Cam Newton of power forwards?
Okay.
But what do you think of the quarterback matchup here?
It comes down to if Peyton Manning, from the cerebral side, and again, Cam Newton's just young, he'll get there, but Manning's got all that experience. But Cam Newton can beat you in so many different ways. Peyton's going to do it by just picking you apart with short passes. Mm-hmm. Newton can do it on the ground. He can throw the short ball. He can throw the long ball. There's a lot of different ways. So I got to give the advantage to the Panthers in that one.
I think so too. We'll go with that advantage. We'll start off the units versus units. The Carolina offense versus the Denver defense. I think this is the marquee matchup of the game. People can talk about the quarterbacks versus the quarterbacks all they want, but Carolina's offense has been the number one scoring offense in the league. Just so explosive, so powerful, control the ball. You saw what they did in the first two playoff games against Seattle and Arizona. The Denver defense has been the number one scoring or the number one defense in the NFL all season in terms of total defense. And you saw what they did to shut down Tom Brady and the Patriots last week.
Yeah.
Who looked like pretty much like a well-oiled machine up to this point. So Carolina, offensively, they won the NFC title game by 34 points. And they're only two of the 5 teams that have won their conference championship games by 30 or more points have won the Super Bowl.
Really?
The 1991 Redskins.
Okay.
And the 2014 Patriots.
Wow.
Those are the only 2 teams to win their conference championship game by 30 or more and win the Super Bowl.
Okay. Seems like there would be – well, again, though, there was a long time there where the conference championship games were actually way better than the Super Bowl, so that's not surprising.
The Panthers led the NFL in scoring, like I said. Teams to lead in scoring are 10-9 all-time in the Super Bowl, but 4 of the last 5 have lost. The only team that won leading in scoring in the last 5 times was the 2009 Saints.
Okay.
Ted Ginn Jr. is the leading offensive threat for the Panthers in terms of wide receivers. 10 receiving touchdowns this season, which is surprising. I mean, that's the one thing when you look at the Panthers, you wonder how they get it done. Ted Ginn Jr., 10 receptions this season. In his previous 7 years in the league, he only had 11 touchdown catches.
Well, it's like I said last week. Ted Ginn, it just depends on which one shows up. And it sounds like the good Ted Ginn's been showing up more this year than not.
The Panthers have rushed for 100 yards or more in 31 consecutive games, including the playoffs. That's the 3rd longest streak since the merger.
That's going to be a key in this game, I think, is that the rushing game.
Yep.
And the Panthers, if they can get that going, then obviously it opens up the passing game, and that makes things a lot easier.
Especially when you're going against the Broncos, who allowed the fewest yards per rush and the 3rd lowest rushing yards per game during the season. The Broncos defense, as I said, led the NFL in total defense. Teams to lead the league in total defense are 9-2 in Super Bowl history, including last year's loss by the Seahawks. Broncos led the NFL in sacks this season with 52. They have 7 in the playoffs. They've generated pressure on 35% of dropbacks this season, the highest mark in the NFL. So not only do they stop the run, but they hound the quarterback. 2 things that you're going to need to do against Cam Newton and the Panthers on offense.
Definitely.
So I really think that that's the most important matchup in the game. And maybe you say, well, the strongest of the strongest versus the strongest of theirs, and you match them up against each other, and they cancel each other out. And it's not going to be the most important thing.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, if you look back over the history of the Super Bowl, I mean, now we had some defenses like the Bears in '85 that team was just unstoppable. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking back to like the Giants and the Bills in Super Bowl 25, where the Bills had that offense that was just as explosive as anything you'd ever seen in your life. And they met the Giants, the Bill Belichick coach, Giants defense, and they shut them down pretty well. So, if the Broncos, and I think the Broncos are as good, maybe not quite, well, I'd say as good as the 90s Giants defense, definitely. So, it's a very important matchup, and that's the key to the game for the Broncos, obviously, is that defense. If they can shut down the Panthers, they're in it. As simple as that. Exactly.
Well, especially Peyton Manning in the offense, like we'll talk about here in a minute. They're a very middling group when in terms of all the marks. So the defense for Denver is going to it's going to have to be like the AFC Championship game.
Right.
The defense is going to have to limit Cam Newton as much as they can, and to at least give the Broncos the opportunity to score and take a lead, or to keep ahead of the Panthers somehow. And it's going to be a physical matchup on that side of the ball. Like that's going to be a all-out war on that end of the football. Well, I think that'll be the most fun to watch.
If the Broncos defense can contain Cam Newton, what do the Panthers do from that point? Where do they go? See, that's the thing.
They're not going to be able to throw it.
Right.
And running the ball, yeah, they've ran over 100 yards, but it's Jonathan Stewart, making the Broncos shaking their boots.
That's my point. If the Broncos can contain, and they don't have to completely shut him down, they just have to just contain him. If they can do that, they've put themselves in a position to win the game. Then it comes down to this question. If you've got to have a quarterback that just needs to manage a game to get you the win, is there anybody that you would rather have than Peyton Manning at this point?
No, it's at this point it's a question of keeping Peyton Manning upright.
Right.
And can he physically make the big throw when it needs to be made? Because he can see it. He can think about it.
Sure.
He's going to be able to do it.
I saw him throw a couple balls in the AFC Championship game. I know that his arm's not what it used to be, but he still made a couple of throws that I thought, you know what? He's not going to be able to do it consistently, but if he needs a long ball, he's still got the arm strength to get it done. Now, granted, he's not going to go out there and just be bombs away left and right, but I don't think his arm is quite as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that Denver offense led by Peyton Manning going up against the Carolina Panthers defense. The Broncos averaged 22 points per game this season. 4 out of the past 6 teams to average that few points have actually won the Super Bowl. Which, again, shows you how much defense matters when you get to a big stage like this where every little thing counts. But saying that, the Panthers defense led the NFL in interceptions during the regular season and was only one of 2 teams to have more interceptions than touchdown passes allowed.
Wow.
The other team was the Bengals.
I don't think you think of that Panthers defense as being as good as it is because you've got the Denvers out there and the teams like that, but that's a pretty good unit they've got there in Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis led linebackers this season with 4 interceptions each. Davis also had 4 forced fumbles. But Davis broke his arm in the NFC title game. But he said he's going to play in the Super Bowl with 12 screws in his arm and a couple plates.
Okay.
Yeah, good luck with that.
That's going to be fine until that numbing agent starts wearing off, and then it's not going to be so easy.
Yeah. Luke Kuechly has 2 interceptions in the playoffs, both being pick sixes returned for touchdowns. Now, this leads into what I thought was probably the most interesting stat I found when I was looking through all this stuff. Teams with an interception returned for a touchdown in the Super Bowl are 12-0.
Wow.
So, if you're watching the game on Sunday and Peyton Manning throws an interception to Luke Kuechly and he runs it back for a touchdown,
ball game.
Even if it's the first touchdown of the game, you might as well say game over. 12-0. Panthers led the NFL in turnover differential this season, takeaways, and points off takeaways. They forced 9 turnovers with 32 points off those turnovers so far in the playoffs. It's going to be, I mean, like we said, it's can the Denver defense control Cam Newton, and can Peyton Manning make the plays when he has to? And I think the other thing with the Denver offense, you compare that offense to Carolina's. Carolina, if you can shut down Cam Newton, then yeah, where else do they go?
Right.
With Denver, C.J. Anderson's a pretty good running back.
Ronnie Hillman can get you some yards when you need it.
Yeah, and when you're throwing to the outside, yeah, if you can get to Peyton Manning and not make him comfortable, not make him throw, but if he can get it to Demaryius Thomas, if he can get it to Emmanuel Sanders, if he can get it to Owen Daniels, the Broncos have more offensive weapons. It's just Peyton has to get the ball to him. And that's really what it's going to come down to, is keeping Peyton Manning protected to get the ball to his playmakers.
Yeah.
And not turning the ball over, really. I mean, it's something you say in front of every football game. You go to a game and you ask a coach before the game, what's the key? Limit turnovers and limit the big plays. And it's cliche and you hate listening to it. And as somebody that has to get quotes from these people, it sucks.
It's true.
But yeah, it's true. It's exactly how you're supposed to play the game.
I mean, I think if you went back and looked up...
Limit big plays, and you win football games more often than not.
If you go back and look at stats throughout the history of football, I don't know that you're going to find a whole lot of teams in the NFL that won a game where they turned the ball over 3 times or more. It just doesn't happen. It's just... It's it's an intriguing matchup because that Denver defense, man, they just look so good against the Patriots, and but they're coming around the edge. I guess you still got to stop Cam Newton up the middle, and can they do that? That's the question. If they can, then yeah, they're in it. I don't know. I just I watched the Panthers just dismantle a really good Cardinals team. But again, I don't know that I want to give all the credit to Carolina on that. I think the Cardinals kind of didn't show up for that one too. But I think, I don't know. I just can't. We really live in a world where Peyton Manning goes to the Super Bowl on what's going to be his last season and gets blown out again.
His last rodeo.
Yeah,
I don't think the Broncos are going to get blown out. I'm confident with this Denver defense looks better than it did the last time they went to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm going to make a comparison here. Going back to the Patriots and the Giants in 2007, the Patriots are coming into that game 18-0. They looked virtually unstoppable. But what did the Giants have that stopped? They had a pass rush. Sure. And that made the entire difference in that football game. And then you had Eli just manage the game, make the plays he had to make, and they won. And I think we're looking at a very similar scenario here with this Super Bowl. It's the same thing. You've got a team that looks like they're just unstoppable coming into it. Nobody giving them much of a chance. But you're forgetting the key element is that defense is really, really good. And that could be the whole difference. So I'm starting to like Denver more and more the more we talk about it here.
It really just comes down to what Denver's defense can do. Because the other thing is the pass rush could end up burning them in a way, right?
Yeah.
If they're getting too aggressive, then Cam Newton hasn't really run a whole lot to make big plays in the playoffs, as far as I can tell. A lot of it's been passing and terrible defensive coverage on some of these guys. But, it's Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware have been beasts coming off that outside edge, and they've been getting into the backfield. Now, I would say that the Panthers probably also have the better offensive line between the two teams, too.
Yeah.
And they've been strong all year, running the ball, protecting for Newton.
Well, that's another thing, too, to think about with that Patriots game with the Broncos is that the Patriots' offensive line was not at its top form in that game either.
Right. But, looking at the Panthers, they have some minor injuries. The injury list for both teams right now, as I said, Thomas Davis says he's going to play despite his broken arm. And defensive end Jared Allen has a broken foot that he's going to try to play with as well. And those were both on Carolina's defensive end. Panthers have other minor injuries on the line. Ryan Khalil is dealing with a knee injury. Defensive end Charles Johnson, fullback Mike Tolbert also dealing with knee injuries and some sore ankles here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary for them. For the Broncos have 7 players on injured reserve, including Ryan Clady, who was a Pro Bowl tackle, very very good. Not too many injuries in major injuries. I mean, you obviously see Peyton Manning, and can he run enough? And little nicks and tears, but nothing.
At this point in the season, everybody's going to have that.
Exactly. It's nothing debilitating for them. So injury-wise, both teams are pretty okay. I think this is going to be one of the more physical Super Bowls we've seen in a little while.
It's sure shaping up to look like it's going to be anyway.
At least on the Panthers' offensive side of the ball versus that Denver defense up front. I mean, if you want to watch a battle, if you want to watch a true football game, just watch the line of scrimmage whenever the Panthers are on the field against that Broncos front 7.
Yeah,
that's going to be where this game's won and lost. Ultimately,
I think it does. It really comes down to assuming everything plays to form. That's what it comes down to is the Denver defense. Now, Peyton Manning could go out there and turn into Peyton Manning from, say, 2005 or 6 or whatever and throw for 550 yards and 5 touchdowns. I doubt that's going to happen, but it could. But based on everything, looking at it as we go into it, it's all on the Denver defense. And if they can keep Cam Newton contained, I know we sound like we're beating a dead cat here, but that's what it comes down to. And if they do that, they're in it. Simple as that.
Yeah. Well, that's all the ins and outs. I think we should hold off on the prediction for just a few minutes. Let that sink in.
Okay.
Give you some time to think it over. And we can go over a couple other things here real quick. Some other stats about the Super Bowl rosters. The SEC has the most players in the game on both sides. 31 players. Pac-12 second with 23. Big Ten third with 20. Greg, what school has the most players in this Super Bowl?
Ohio State.
Ohio State Buckeyes.
Is that right? I was just kidding.
2 Broncos and 4 Panthers.
All right. Well, let's see. The Panthers, you got Kurt Coleman, Ted Ginn. Who are the other 2?
I don't know. It just
it doesn't say. Okay.
Yeah. Auburn is second with 4, all on the Panthers. Georgia Tech also has 4, 2 on each side.
Well, if anybody needs a triple option, you got some Tech guys there ready to run it for you.
Yeah. Then there's a whole list. I'm trying to see if there's any strange ones where there's only one. Let's see. Wofford has a man of the game.
Now, here's the thing. Okay, let's say that you're a football player and you go to school at Wofford. Do you really think that you've got a shot at playing in a Super Bowl?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Villanova.
Okay, same thing.
Texas San Antonio.
Okay.
Louisiana Lafayette.
Nah, that was not so far off the beaten path.
Towson.
Towson's another one. I don't think you go there thinking, okay, this is my first step towards a Super Bowl in my career.
Tennessee State.
Same thing.
Southern. Let's see, SMU. Sacramento State. Samford.
Samford, huh?
Let's see. Northern Colorado.
Wow. That's probably the least likely of the bunch, Northern Colorado. What do you think? That sounds like a community college.
Morningside. Montreal.
All right.
Midwestern State. That is the most generic college name I think I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Where do you go? Oh, Midwestern State.
Which one?
So anywhere.
Right.
You go to school anywhere. Fresno, Connecticut, Bloomsburg.
Okay.
That's all the ones. Which state has the most players in the game?
Florida.
Florida is 4th.
Wow. So I'm going to go with my next pick. It's got to be, okay, then Texas.
Texas is 2nd.
California.
California has 24, 10 more than Texas does.
Wow.
Georgia has 13. Ohio has 10.
Well, you've just checked off, other than, I'm sure Georgia's in the top 10, but you just checked off all the high school football crazy states in the country there.
California, Texas, Florida. There's your 3.
Yeah.
And then there you just kind of work your way down. Ohio, Alabama.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania's in there too. 6. Maryland, Colorado. And then it goes on down. Canada has 1. Washington, D.C. has a player in the game.
Okay.
That's that. There's something else I was going to look at. Oh, we can talk about. Did you see what they did with the end zones?
No.
When they were putting down the end zones to paint for the game, they put the Broncos end zone in both end zones.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
Initially, it was just the outline, so they were able to paint over it. But initially, it just said Broncos on both ends of the field.
How do you mess that up? I mean, come on,
I don't know.
really?
You say, hey, we're going to go paint the end zones. And, I mean, you would think that there's only one stencil.
Yeah.
But who knows how that works out. But that's all the stuff for the game itself.
I guess we need to make a pick.
Do we want to look at prop bets or anything like that?
Nah, we'll save that for the sports show.
Okay. Then I'll hold on to that stuff. Yeah, there's a bet on how many chicken wings Buffalo Wild Wings will sell on Super Bowl day.
Oh my God, it's going to be a bunch.
The over/under is 12 million.
I'm going to go with the under on that, but we'll save that for the sports show. But I'm going to take the under on that.
Well, do we want to talk about other NFL news or just make the pick first?
Let's just make the pick.
All right.
We need stuff to talk about on Bass because there's not a whole hell of a lot going on right now.
All right. Well, it's not. I mean, there was like news stuff, like.
Yeah, we'll do that on there.
All right. So we've gone through all possible angles. I think we went through a lot, probably more than we've gone through for anything else that we've ever done here. So, AFC champion Denver Broncos, NFC champion Carolina Panthers. Panthers are a 4-point favorite going into Sunday's game at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California. A 3:30 local time start. Greg, who is your Super Bowl champion?
Well, you know what? At the beginning of the show, I would have probably put all my money on the Panthers. But the more we talk about it, the more I think about it, I like that Denver defense to pull a 2007 New York Giants, shut down that Panthers offense, and we get a close game. I'm taking the Denver Broncos and the storybook ending to Peyton Manning's career, 31-27. They win the Super Bowl.
31.
They're going to get a defensive touchdown in there somewhere.
Okay. So you're going to go with the over then as well.
Over as well, yep.
Okay. I'm going to go. I was kind of the same way. I gave the Panthers the edge. But the more you kind of look at the numbers, you see how impressive that Denver defense has been, how they're going to combat the Panthers. They're going to go right head-to-head with the Panthers' strengths. And really, I think it comes down to can that Denver defense do what they did to Tom Brady against Cam Newton? And can Peyton Manning not throw interceptions? I'm going to go Broncos, and I'm going to go with the under. I'm going to have the final score 24-17.
Okay.
24-17 Broncos.
All right.
It's going to be probably. I think this will end up being one of the more entertaining Super Bowls. I mean, we had last year where it came down to the final play. I don't know if it's going to be that kind of tight, but it will be one of the more entertaining ones in recent memory.
And here's the final question I have about the Super Bowl.
Yes.
If the Broncos win, how long is it before the conspiracy theories start that it was a setup to give Peyton Manning a touchdown as he went out like John Elway? I think that the last piece of confetti will have not hit the ground yet before that's already out there.
I think it's already out there right now. I think people are already talking about that. But yeah, I think part of this is a sentimental thing. I'm going to be wearing my Peyton Manning Colts jersey on Sunday. I so want this for him to go out on his last rodeo, as he said. But I don't want to wuss out and give a caveat and say, but the Panthers have been very physically impressive. You also look at the last time the Broncos played in the Super Bowl, and that Seahawks game is still on the mind of all those players that were there. Sure. Whether it's Peyton Manning, whether it's Von Miller, you have other guys that have come in there since that give them a little bit more hunger, like a DeMarcus Ware, and he's been on fire this year. I think defense wins championships, like you said. And yes, the Panthers' defense is impressive, but they're impressive defending the pass. And I think Denver has been able to change their game to a point of being able to run the ball. Now, if the Panthers are able to start scoring points and the Broncos have to start throwing the ball, then that changes things, and maybe if the Panthers get out to an early lead, then I think this thing's going to be done. Yep. I don't know if the Broncos are going to be able to come back quickly on them, but things have got to stay close for the Broncos to win. Yep. And I think that defense can really do it. They were impressive 2 weeks ago. They've had 2 weeks to prepare, to rest, to heal up, and if anything, maybe the 2 weeks cools down the Panthers a little bit, right?
Well, that's always a possibility.
And I mean, you saw how they played in that Seattle game where they go up big and then they don't show up in the second half. So there's a lot of variables to the Panthers. There's a lot of unknowns. And I mean, Cam Newton has been impressive all year, but I think this is going to be Peyton Manning's stage at the end of the day. That's your Super Bowl 50 primer, preview, everything you could have wanted. For Greg, I'm Zach. This has been basically a football show. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Go Broncos.